how often do you get to see something like this? You got the champion versus the featherweight champion. And not only do you have pound for pound implications here, what's more important is this. Remember Alexander Volkanovski? I'm just going to say this, man. When he beat Max Holloway, that was a big deal the first time. And controversy aside, he did it again and he beat him again. And then controversy aside, they fought again. And then what? He did it again, right? The point that I'm making here is that you have a dude who has transcended Max Holloway in terms of rankings in the featherweight all-time history. He's probably the only guy underneath Jose Aldo in terms of supremacy. Now we're talking about the lightweights, and we're talking about an Islam Makhachev. Hasn't defended yet, right? But ultimately, if he can defeat Alexander Volkanovski here and do it in impressive fashion, I think it is truly safe to say Islam Makhachev has done something at this point that even Khabib Nurmagomedov was not able to accomplish in his career. Would you mind extrapolating on that a little bit?
Yeah, I already like that you're bringing into the fact of the Habib comparison. I mean, it's there, it's easy, it's a layup. Everybody's been talking about it, and the kind of thing that I've been noticing on is Islam isn't exactly like Habib. There's a little bit difference of him, man. He's and nonetheless in his performance and his style, but also in the way he's kind of has a chip on his shoulder, man. He does have that loss. You could hear him in the Embedded in the UFC, the pre-fight presser when they're doing face to face. He's already calling him short. He's digging a little, man. He has a little bit of that dog in him, but everybody's pressuring him to always be like, hey, be like Khabib, stick to the game plan, do what his father did, all this stuff that these Russian fighters continuously say to stay on top. So will he stray away? And the only time Islam has lost is when he did take that chance, when he did stray away from the game plan and gets caught with the right hand. Beautiful timing. You know, it is what it is. It happens. And to see Alexander Volkanovski come in and do this thing, I think going back to what you were talking about first, Derek, and I'm a little all over the place with this one, but it's the narrative of it. Yeah. I'm excited for the narrative that's being built of that pound for pound and the champ and all that, but as well as the narrative of both of these dudes kind of being a little undervalued. Overlooked, if you will, because of when Alexander Volkanovski did beat Max Holloway, the 1, the 2, and the 3 times, whether they're controversial or not, he eventually did kind of fill that role. Yep. Islam still has yet to do it, and I feel like both of these guys are still kind of undervalued. Maybe why a lot of the people in the press don't really feel like this fight card has been announced. I mean, or it has been promoted as well. I know this one, when I looked at this card, nothing jumps out because there's so many studs on this one. It's almost hard to promote it. I know I was all over the place with that one. Derek, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you feel it? Do you have any pushback?
I feel what you're saying. I think ultimately, if there's somebody who's being overlooked here, it's Alexander Volkanovski. Islam Makhachev is not being overlooked whatsoever. He's a clear betting favorite. Look at the betting line. Minus 380, plus 300 comeback for Volkanovski. And those were opening odds, right? I think, though, what we're saying here is look at Islam Makhachev, man. How is he going to become the pound-for-pound greatest fighter by beating a champion in a lower weight division? You shouldn't be, almost. It's only for the stakes that Alexander Volkanovski has on this. You got to think about what he's accomplished, and that's when it all kind of makes sense a little bit. We need to see more title defenses from Makhachev, but to just do something against a fighter of this caliber, a man like Volkanovski who's on, like a 21-fight win streak or something like that. He's beaten the legends. He's done all that. That's where it makes it impressive. But let's talk about the real elephant in the room right here, AJ, because this is the big one. Islam Makhachev takes a different approach than Khabib does, and you hate to have to compare him all the time, but he also made a great point, and he says, oh yeah, I understand why Volkanovski wants this fight. What does he have to lose? And this almost reminds me of, remember that scenario when Max Holloway, pre-Alexander Volkanovski, was like, yeah, I'll go up and fight Dustin Poirier for the belt. And even though he was a world beater, beating the brakes off everybody, you go up that weight class and things turn out a little bit different. So this is the point that I want to put in. If these two fighters were the same weights, right? If they were the same exact weight, same height, same reach, same everything, and you had to give an advantage to somebody, I think we can arguably say, at least I can, because maybe I'm just too big of a fan, Volkanovski should not be an underdog in this fight. But this is what I'm going to point out to you. And then I want your pushback on here. Islam Makhachev, very good, just like Alexander Volkanovski. Different styles, right? Not as well of a striker as Volkanovski is, but his grappling is phenomenal. If there's something that can change an X factor between two equal opponents, it's size. And Islam Makhachev isn't simply just a taller fighter. Yeah, Volk short. He's the bigger fighter. He's going to be the stronger fighter. And I think sometimes that's all you need to sway the fight. So with all of that, let's compact this, man. You know what I mean? Let's really break it down. What do you think?
So I'm glad you're bringing the size into it, because if we remember, or if revisionist history takes a little bit of look back, every champ that has gone up to fight, for the most part, blanket statement. Israel Adesanya kind of struggled with this one as well. But you take the Henry Cejudos, the people that are fighting these bigger guys, usually in that 10-pound weight difference, the 35s to 45s or the 45s to 55s, not that big of a jump. Most of the time, we've seen how much weight these guys cut. It's 20 to 30 pounds. So usually they're around the same weight. And then you bring Volkanovski into the mix, where this dude used to be a 290-pound rugby player.
Not that heavy. Not that heavy, brother.
Whatever the weight is.
Sure.
Maybe I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating a little bit. But however he was a big dude for that 5 whatever stature he is. So the point being that he's felt that kind of weight. He knows that kind of pressure. Now, does he know the Islam Makhachev pressure? We're gonna test that out. And I think that's the big one right here. Yeah, Islam is the more powerful guy. He is gonna be the bigger, more dominating guy. Until he's on his back, then we get to see. Now, is Volkanovski the guy that's going to be able to put him there, man? That's what I'm excited to be. I've stayed up and down on this entire topic, man. I've gone back and forth on who's going to win, because if there's ever a guy to put it to somebody else who's not going to be bullied, who's going to be a dog in the fight no matter what, it's the guy who almost got choked out by Brian Ortega, who, you tell me, Derek, how much air was in the arena when Alexander Volkanovski slipped out of those. And I think he's going to maybe pull out some magic again. We'll see. What do you think?
Well, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, I was there for that fight, man. And in that moment, everybody was jumping up, screaming. Brian Ortega just pulled off the biggest upset. And then Volkanovski slipped his head out. And then he just started beating the brakes off of Ortega. And it was nasty. And that is the big point, right? If you can survive that, what makes you think that Islam is just going to run through this guy, right? But I'll tell you, this is, I think, where we need to start breaking in the actual X's and O's, right? The big test is, can Volkanovski surpass rounds 1 and rounds 2? If you can get past the halfway mark of round 3, Volkanovski has a legitimate shot to win that fight. Legitimate shot. If he can get past the halfway point of round 3. The question is, can he get there, right? And I think that is the big looming question that nobody can answer until we actually see it happen. At the end of the day, man, what does this... So think about it for Volkanovski. He has almost everything to gain here, nothing to lose. Islam Makhachev is the one taking the risk. When you are the risk taker, oftentimes, even though he's over here saying, yeah, I really want to knock him out and all that, don't you think in your heart of hearts, when you're taking the risk, you play the most conservative? When you're conservative and you're Makhachev, you stick to your bread and butter, just like when Khabib would give him the game plan and says, why are you out here striking? Grapple, the game plan, grapple. That's all you need to do. So if he can... Craig Jones said it phenomenally. He says, Islam Makhachev is not some great submission artist. He knows how to hold people down really well, and he submits them. But his submissions are not spectacular. And I think that's very true. Bread and butter, fundamentals, brother. That's what wins the fight here. What is Alexander Volkanovski, other than being tough and being relentless and being Volkanovski, what does he have to do to win?
Man, it's rough because I don't see Volkanovski outstriking Makhachev right here. I also don't really see him outpowering and putting him on his back, but I think he is going to have to hit some crazy sweeps, do something in the later rounds. He's going to have to rely on his toughness. If not now, then whenever is he going to do it? And this is the time. I don't know, Derek. There's really no X's and O's because, well, I get there's a bunch of X's and O's, but the matter of it is going to have to be seen when the fight goes down, because I don't see the striking being that phenomenal from one side or the other. I think they're both kind of the same kind of matchup. Sure, Islam is a little bit better at wrestling, but everything's kind of null and void, man. I think we're going to see a lot of back and forth, which makes me, for this fight personally, I'm excited just to watch it and not really put too much money on it, man. I don't know which one's going to be, because if there's ever somebody who's going to stop a Russian powerhouse, it's going to be Volkanovski. It's going to be the Terror, the dude from down under, little Tasmanian devil. But if there's a dude who's just going to steamroll somebody who's been steamrolling the young boys down below him, it's going to be the Russian that's rolling through his entire division. I mean, so it's hard to say, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it'd be too easy to sit here for me, right? I'll let you get away with it. It's going to be too easy for me to say, yeah, stay away, don't bet on this. No. If you're going to bet on somebody here, the bet is to make on Islam Makhachev, and it's as simple as that, right? At the end of the day, I've given this a lot of thought. I could be right. I could be wrong. But if there's one thing that I know is tried and true, it's that size matters. And look at Max Holloway, Israel Adesanya. Look at all of these dudes who decide to go up, aside from a Dan Henderson, right? Look at all these dudes who decide to go up. And that is the big X factor right there. Islam Makhachev can simply be too much just in terms of size. Because if you look at him, bro, it's not like he's just 4 inches taller. They got like the same reach, right? But when someone puts that squeeze on you and holds you down, and when you're used to being able to escape in certain positions and you can't anymore, mentally things get a little bit tough. But I think if there's anyone who can surpass that mental barrier, it's Alexander Volkanovski, which is why it's a big guessing game. But the safe pick is Islam Makhachev. If you got nuts, you in Australia, brother. You got nuts, you bet on Alexander the Great, and I will give you the biggest kudos if he wins. But I'll tell you straight up right here, I like an Islam Makhachev, but I'm going to give Alexander Volkanovski some credit here. I think that he gets it done. I think Islam Makhachev gets it done via decision. I know submission is the easy bet. That's what everybody is sitting here saying. Yeah, he's just going to grab him. He's going to submit him. It'll be too much. I think a decision victory is probably the most likely if we're respecting the pedigree of an Alexander Volkanovski. Do you see it the same way, or do you think Makhachev gets him out of there?
No, I'm right with you, Derek. I'm taking the safe bet. I'm going Makhachev, and I'm also going decision because of how dangerous Alexander Volkanovski can be. How much of a dog this dude is. He's going to be in the fight the whole time. It's going to be crazy to see Islam put him away in anything less than 4. So if that happens, man, blown away. And if you're, like you said, Derek, if you got the nuts and you're betting it on Volkanovski right here, make sure you're dropping a comment when this one goes live. Put the timestamp. Let us know, because you will get a lot of credit if you do.
Exactly. I say video proof, receipts, everything, bring it out. You know what I'm saying?
Hit us on Twitter, man. We want to see it.
But hey, I want to make it very clear before we move on. I am not in the camp that says, oh, Makhachev is just going to smash this guy. I am not in that camp. I give Volkanovski more than a puncher's chance, more than a fighting chance. This dude has a real opportunity to win this fair and square. But I just think that it's not a height. It's not a reach. It's simply size. You see a massive dude like Makhachev, come on, baby. Yeah, Volkanovski, rugby, but it ain't the same, brother. Let's get it. All right, man, that's going to be a fantastic bout.